Chapter 1. Awakening. The first thing I noticed was the chill. A bone-deep cold that seeped through my skin, making my teeth chatter before I even opened my eyes. It wasn't the kind of cold from a winter storm, but something sharper, like the air itself had turned against me. When I finally forced my lids apart, the world blurred into focus. Harsh and unforgiving, I was lying on a metal cot in what looked like an old warehouse, the kind you'd find on the outskirts of a forgotten industrial town. The ceiling above was rusted beams crisscrossing like veins, and a single bulb swung lazily from a chain, casting shadows that danced across the concrete floor. My head throbbed with a dull ache, as if someone had driven spikes into my temples. My mouth tasted like copper, and when I tried to sit up, the room spun that I wasn't alone in the sense of company, but the silence screamed emptiness. Crates were stacked haphazardly against the walls, some splintered, contents spilled, canned goods, tools, a few scattered papers yellowed with age. I swung my legs over the side of the cot, my boots hitting the floor with a thud that echoed too loudly. My hands were smeared with dirt, nails chipped, and there was a tear in my jacket sleeve, frayed threads hanging like accusations. Who was I? The question hit me like a punch. I reached for a name, something simple, foundational. It came slowly, bubbling up from the fog. James Harlan. An American, from Seattle, but why was I here? In Canada? The fragments pieced together. Vacation? No. Business trip. Oil fields or something. Calgary, Alberta. 1987. The year stuck, but the details slipped away. I stood, legs wobbling like a newborn calf, and moved toward a grimy window. Outside, snow dusted the ground, though it was summer. Wait. No, the calendar in my mind said July, but the white blanket contradicted it. The streets of this industrial district were eerily still. A truck sat abandoned in the middle of the road, doors ajar, engine long dead. Papers fluttered in the wind, caught against a chain-link fence. That a sound broke the quiet. A low groan from somewhere deeper in the warehouse. My heart jumped. I froze, straining to listen. It came again, ragged, like someone struggling to breathe through water. I grabbed a crowbar from a nearby crate, the metal cold in my grip, and edged toward the noise. The back room was darker, lit only by a sliver of light from a cracked door. Shelves lined the walls, toppled in places, and in the corner, a figure slumped against the wall. It was a man, or what used to be one. His skin was ashen, eyes sunken and wild. Blood crusted his shirt, and when he saw me, he lurched forward with unnatural speed. That I swung the crowbar without thinking. It connected with a sickening crack, and he dropped, but not before his fingers grazed my arm. I backed away, breath coming in gasps. What the hell was that? Panic clawed at me. I needed answers, needed to get out. Pushing through the main door, the cold hit me full force. Calgary's skyline loomed in the distance, but the streets were wrong. Too empty, too silent. I started walking, crowbar in hand, toward what I hoped was downtown. Chapter 2. The empty streets. The wind howled through the alleyways, carrying flakes of snow that stung my face. It shouldn't be snowing in July, but nothing made sense anymore. My boots crunched over the thin layer of white, leaving prints that seemed too bold in the desolation. Buildings rose around me, warehouses giving way to factories, all shuttered and dark. That I spotted a phone booth at the corner, glass cracked but intact. I fumbled for change in my pockets. Nothing. Kicking the door open, I grabbed the receiver. Deadline. No dial tone, just silence mocking me. I slammed it down and kept moving. Memories flickered like faulty film reels. I'd come to Calgary for a deal. American investor eyeing Alberta's oil boom. Meetings with locals, handshakes over whiskey. Then nothing. A blank slate until the warehouse. A car wreck blocked the next intersection. Two vehicles tangled in a frozen embrace. Doors hung open, seats empty. Blood smeared the windshield of one, long dried. I approached cautiously, peering inside. A briefcase lay on the passenger seat, papers scattered. One caught my eye, a headline from the Calgary Herald: Mysterious illness sweeps province. Date: July 15th, 1987. Illness? My mind raced. Flu. Something worse? The article mentioned fever, aggression, quarantine zones. I pocketed it and scanned the area. Movement caught my eye, a shadow shifting behind a dumpster. Hello. My voice echoed, hoarse from disuse. The shadow emerged, a woman in a tattered coat, hair matted with snow. Her eyes were wide, pupils dilated. She staggered toward me, arms outstretched, a guttural moan escaping her lips that I raised the crowbar. Stay back. She didn't listen. Lunged. I swung, connecting with her shoulder. She crumpled but crawled forward, nails scraping concrete. Horror gripped me. I ran, feet pounding the pavement, not stopping until the factories blurred into residential streets. Houses stood silent, windows boarded in places, doors ajar in others. A child's bicycle lay toppled in a driveway, half buried in snow. I tried a door unlocked. Inside, the air was stale, furniture overturned. Kitchen cabinets ransacked, a radio on the counter crackling static. I twisted the dial. A voice broke through. Emergency broadcast. Viral outbreak confirmed in Alberta. Infected display violent behavior. Avoid contact. Shelter in place. Repeat. The words chilled me deeper than the snow. Viral outbreak. Like rabies on steroids? I searched the house, found a backpack, stuffed it with canned soup, a flashlight, matches. A map of Calgary pinned to the wall showed evacuation routes marked in red, leading north to Edmonton. Outside, the groan echoed again. More shadows moved in the distance. I slipped out the back, heart racing, heading toward the city center. I needed people, real people, not these things. Chapter 3. First encounters. Downtown Calgary was a ghost town under the gray sky. Skyscrapers pierced the clouds, but their windows were dark, reflections distorted. Snow swirled in eddies, blanketing cars abandoned in gridlock. I navigated through them, crowbar ready. A shout pierced the air. Human, desperate. I followed it to a plaza, where three figures huddled behind an overturned vendor cart. Two men and a woman, armed with makeshift weapons, a bat, a tire iron, a kitchen knife. One of the men spotted me. Hey, you clean? I raised my hands. Yeah, I'm not, whatever those things are. They eyed me suspiciously. The woman, mid-30s, dark hair pulled back, stepped forward. American? Accent gives you away. James Harlan, from Seattle. Woke up in a warehouse. What's happening? The taller man, bearded, grunted. Name's Tom. This is Laura and Mike. Virus hit hard last week. Turns people into monsters. Fast, hungry, no reasoning. Mike, the shorter one, limped slightly. Started in the oil fields. Workers coming back sick. Spread like wildfire. Laura glanced around. We're heading to a rumored safe zone in Banff. Military setup, they say. A growl interrupted. From the shadows of a bank entrance, two infected charged. Tom swung his bat, cracking one's skull. I joined, crowbar smashing the other's knee. It fell, but more emerged from alleys. Run, Laura yelled. We sprinted through the plaza, dodging debris. My lungs burned in the cold air. We ducked into a department store, barricading the doors with shelves. Inside, panting, Tom eyed me. You fight okay, Yank? Stick with us. I nodded. No choice. Strength in numbers. Chapter 4. The journey begins. We scavenged the store, warm coats, boots, food from the cafe. Laura found a radio, tuning to the emergency channel. The broadcast looped. Infected are attracted to noise. Travel quietly. Safe zones in major cities under quarantine. Banff was west, through the Rockies. Risky in snow, but better than staying. Mike shared his story. Local mechanic, lost his family early. Tom was a trucker, American like me, from Texas, hauling goods when it hit. Laura, a nurse from Edmonton, had seen the first cases. We moved at dusk, shadows lengthening. The highway out of Calgary was clogged, forcing us on foot. Infected roamed in packs, drawn by distant sounds. That night, camped in an abandoned motel, whispers filled the room. Tom spoke of his wife back home. I shared fragments, my business, the deal that brought me here. But deeper memories eluded me. A scream outside jolted us. Mike peered through curtains, an infected tearing into a stray dog. We stayed silent, waiting for dawn. Chapter 5. Rising tensions. The Rockies loomed as we pushed west, snow deepening. Feet blistered, hunger gnawed. We raided a gas station, jerky, water, a map, arguments brewed. Mike wanted a detour south, toward warmer areas. Tom insisted on Banff. Laura mediated, but tension simmered. One afternoon, crossing a bridge, a horde ambushed. Dozens, pouring from the woods. We fought back to back, weapons swinging. Mike took a scratch on his arm, shallow but bloodied. Clean it, Laura ordered, bandaging it, but doubt crept in. Scratches spread the virus? The broadcast hadn't said. That night, Mike sweated, feverish. Just cold, he muttered. Tom watched him closely. I felt the rift widening. Chapter 6. Betrayal and Lost. Dawn brought horror. Mike convulsed, eyes glazing. He lunged at Laura. Tom tackled him, but Mike bit his hand. I swung the crowbar, ending it. Tom stared at his wound. I'm done. Laura cleaned it, but we knew. Virus spread through bites. We pressed on, Tom lagging. By evening, he turned. Fever, aggression. He begged us to end it. Laura couldn't. I did, crowbar heavy in my hands. Tears froze on my cheeks. Just Laura and me now. Trust shattered, but we clung to each other. Chapter 7. Memories resurfaced deeper in the mountains. Snowstorms raged. We holed up in a cabin, fire crackling. Memories flooded back. My wife, Emily, in Seattle. Our son, David, 8 years old. Phone calls about the virus reaching the border. I came to Canada to secure a deal, escape the chaos at home. But had I abandoned them? Guilt twisted like a knife. Laura shared her past, lost husband to the outbreak. We bonded over loss, a fragile alliance. Outside, howls echoed, not wolves, infected. Chapter 8. The climax approached. Banff appeared on the horizon, lights flickering. Power? Hope surged, but the path was guarded. Infected swarmed a valley pass. We snuck through at night, hearts pounding. Gunshots rang out. Military? We crested a hill, seeing the safe zone. Fences, guards, tents. Relief washed over us. But as we approached, shouts. Halt. Quarantine check. They stripped us, inspected for bites. Clean. Inside, order reigned. Food, beds, news. The virus originated in labs, accidental release. Spread global, but whispers of unrest, rationing, power struggles. Chapter 9. False hope. Shattered days blurred in the camp. I radioed Seattle, no response. Emily and David? Lost? Laura fell ill. Not virus, exhaustion. She recovered, but the camp fractured. Fights over supplies. Guards turned tyrannical. One night, an infected breach. Chaos erupted. Guards fired wildly, hitting civilians. In the melee, Laura was shot, mistaken for infected. She died in my arms, whispering, "Keep going." Alone again, rage boiled. Chapter 10. The tragic end. I confronted the commander, American like me, corrupt, hoarding supplies. In the struggle, I killed him, but alarms blared. Guards swarmed. I fled into the snow, wounded, infected closing in. Memories flashed. Emily's laugh, David's smile. Too late, the horde overtook me. Pain, then darkness. In the end, the virus claimed another soul, a tragic echo in the frozen wilds of Alberta. The safe zone fell soon after, whispers carried on the wind. Hope extinguished, like a candle in the storm. Conclusion. As the horde closed in, their ragged breaths mingling with the howling wind, James Harlan stumbled through the deepening snow, his vision blurring at the edges. The wound on his side, from the guard's bullet, pulsed with every step, a hot, insistent pain that radiated through his body like fire in his veins. Blood soaked his coat, leaving a crimson trail that the falling flakes quickly covered, as if the world itself was eager to erase his existence. He could hear them behind him, the infected, their feet crunching irregularly, some shambling, others lurching with that unnatural speed that defied their decayed forms. The Rockies towered around him, indifferent monoliths of stone and ice, their peaks lost in the swirling gray sky that James's mind, frayed by exhaustion and blood loss, began to unravel. Memories flooded in not as coherent narratives, but as fragmented shards, cutting deeper than any physical wound. He saw Emily's face again, her soft brown eyes crinkled in laughter as she handed him a mug of coffee on a rainy Seattle morning. "Don't forget to call when you land," she'd said, her voice light but laced with worry. That had been the last time he'd heard her speak, before the business trip to Calgary, before the world tilted into madness. David, their son, had been there too, tugging at his pant leg, holding up a drawing of a spaceship blasting off to the stars. "For luck, Dad," the boy had grinned, his front tooth missing from a recent playground tumble. The guilt hit him like a fresh wave, nearly buckling his knees. Had he abandoned them? The virus had been whispering across the border even then. Reports of strange fevers in Vancouver, quarantines in Toronto. He'd dismissed it as hype, another media scare to sell papers. Now, as he pushed through a thicket of evergreens, branches whipping his face, he wondered if Emily and David had survived the initial outbreak. Seattle would have been hit hard, dense population, ports teeming with international traffic. He pictured their apartment overlooking Puget Sound, windows shattered, the once cozy living room strewn with the remnants of a desperate flight. Or worse, them turned, wandering the streets with hollow eyes, driven by that insatiable hunger that a root caught his boot, sending him sprawling into the snow. The impact jarred his wound, and he gasped, rolling onto his back. The sky above was a churning mass of clouds, snowflakes spiraling down like confetti from a cruel celebration. The infected were closer now. He could make out their shapes through the trees, pale figures in tattered clothes, some still wearing the remnants of uniforms or everyday attire, a mockery of their former lives. One, a woman in a nurse's scrub like Laura's, dragged a broken leg behind her, her mouth agape in a perpetual snarl. James fumbled for the crowbar at his belt, but his fingers were numb, unresponsive. He laughed bitterly, the sound weak and hollow. What was the point? He'd fought for days, weeks, only to end up here, alone in the frozen wilderness. The safe zone, that beacon of false hope, had crumbled behind him, its fences breached, its inhabitants scattering or succumbing to the very chaos they'd sought to escape. The commander he'd killed, that smug American expat hoarding supplies while others starved, his face flashed in James's mind, twisted in surprise as the crowbar connected. Justice? Revenge? It felt empty now, just another act of violence in a world drowning in it. As the first infected reached the edge of the clearing, James closed his eyes, letting the memories pull him under. He was back in Seattle, not the ruined version his fears conjured, but the vibrant city of his youth. It was 1975, before Emily, before David, when he was just a young engineer fresh out of college, working on the Alaskan pipeline deals that would set the stage for his career in oil. The air smelled of rain and coffee, the streets alive with the hum of traffic and the chatter of pedestrians. He'd met Emily at a diner near the university, her buried in a textbook on environmental science, him nursing a hangover from a late-night negotiation session. "You look like you could use a refill," she'd said, sliding into the booth across from him with a smile that lit up the dingy space. Their conversation had flowed effortlessly, debates on energy policy, shared laughs over bad diner food. She was passionate about conservation, he about innovation, They clashed and complemented in ways that felt destined. By the end of that year, they were married in a small ceremony on Whidbey Island, the sound of waves crashing as they exchanged vows. David came 3 years later, a bundle of energy that turned their quiet life into a whirlwind. James remembered the sleepless nights, the joy of watching his son take his first steps in their cramped apartment. "He's got your stubbornness," Emily would tease, as David refused to give up on stacking blocks that kept tumbling. Those were the golden years, before the oil booms and busts pulled James away on frequent trips, leaving Emily to handle the home front. He'd promised to slow down, to be there more, but the deals kept coming. Alberta's tar sands, the promise of fortunes in the frozen north. Now, as the infected's groans grew louder, James wondered if that ambition had been his undoing. The virus, whispers in the camp said, had started in a lab, some bioweapon gone wrong, or a natural mutation amplified by industrial pollution. He could hear Emily's voice in his head, warning about the dangers of unchecked progress. "We're playing with fire, James. One day it'll burn us all." Had she seen it coming? In his delirium, he imagined her and David safe somehow, barricaded in a cabin in the Cascades, waiting for him to return. But deep down, he knew the truth. The virus spared no one. The first infected reached him, its cold hands grasping his ankle. James kicked weakly, but more piled on, their weight pressing him into the snow. Pain exploded as teeth sank into his flesh, but it was distant, muffled by the encroaching darkness. His thoughts fragmented further, leaping to the journey that had brought him here. He recalled waking in the warehouse, the chills seeping into his bones, the confusion that gripped him like a vice. Calgary had been a blur of snow and shadows, the empty streets a canvas of abandonment. The phone booth with its dead line, the car wreck with blood-smeared glass, each detail etched in his mind like scars. The newspaper headline, "Mysterious Illness Sweeps Province." How naive he'd been, thinking it was isolated, containable. Then the first encounter with the infected, that ashen man in the warehouse, lunging with feral hunger. James had swung the crowbar instinctively, the crack of bone reverberating through him. Running into the streets, the unnatural July snow blanketing everything in white, he'd felt the world shift beneath him. The radio broadcast in the abandoned house, "Viral outbreak confirmed. Avoid contact. Shelter in place." Words that meant nothing in the face of the horror unfolding. Meeting Tom, Laura, and Mike in the plaza had been a lifeline, a fragile thread of humanity in the chaos. Tom, the bearded trucker from Texas, with his gruff demeanor and unyielding resolve. Laura, the nurse from Edmonton, her hands steady even as her eyes betrayed the weight of loss. Mike, the limping mechanic, haunted by the ghosts of his family. They'd shared stories in hushed tones, scavenging in the department store, planning their trek to Banff. The journey west had been a gauntlet of trials. The clogged highway, infected packs roaming like wolves. Camping in the motel, the scream outside as an infected devoured a dog. Tensions rising as they pushed into the Rockies, snow deepening, arguments flaring. Mike's scratch on the bridge, the fever that followed, his transformation into one of them. James remembered the crowbar's weight as he ended Mike's suffering, the blood on his hands mixing with the snow. Then Tom, bitten in the struggle, his plea to end it before he turned. "Do it, Yank," he'd growled, eyes already glazing. James had obliged, the act hollowing him out further. Just him and Laura after that, forging through storms, holing up in the cabin where memories resurfaced. Emily and David, the family he'd left behind. Laura's own tales of loss, their bond forged in shared grief, approaching Banff, the flickering lights promising salvation. The valley pass swarming with infected, their nights sneak through heart-pounding. The safe zone's fences, guards with rifles, the quarantine check that let them in. Order at first, food, beds, news of the virus's origins. But cracks appeared quickly, rationing disputes, guards tyranny.